Hello and welcome to the Car Podcast featuring Chris Harris, a sunburnt Chris Harris, and his friends. This is episode number 42. What a name. What a number. It could be a great bassy electro pop band from the 1980s, or it could be the answer to everything, couldn't it? It could be anything. For us, it's a significant number because this week we take on a sponsor, a new sponsor. Car and Classic, a place where each of us has spent, well, brackets, wasted, let's say, hundreds of hours of our lives looking at tidbits, because it's full of tasty morsels that you can dream about and potentially buy as well. It's an auction site. It's also a classified site. It has more cars that we love for sale in Europe than any other site. So we're very pleased and proud to have them as a sponsor. And all Two Car Garage nominations from now on will be taken from Car and Classic.
Magic.
There's also an app. Car and Classic has an app. It's pretty neat. Go and have a look at it. It's a it's a sexy app. We don't like apps. We think they're mostly shit, but this one is really, really quite good. And there's going to be a section where the Two Car Garage that we choose goes up there and people can contribute. Okay, so it becomes interactive. How special. How 2025. Now, moving on to this week's agenda. I got to see. Put my readers on. Here we go. I'm that bad these days. Man maths. Invest £25,000 in a classic car to make money. No pressure. But before we started recording, Chris Cooper said, "I've got this nailed. I won the last two," and he actually shook his shoulders like sort of Kevin from Kevin and Perry, which I thought was incredibly adult of him. Neil Clifford also thinks he's going to win this and manages quiet, which means he thinks he's going to win it too. So I'm going to start off with Chris Cooper.
Oh, right. There's a TR6 in my wife's life, in my wife Lynn's life. And she already owns it, so we don't have to buy it. We've had it restored a few times. It needs a bit of TLC. The TR6, not Lynn. It needs a bit of TLC, the car. She's had it longer than me. She's had the TR6 longer than we've been together, which is quite a few years now. So I reckon the 25k I'd want to invest in a classic car would be to invest in Lynn's TR6.
You're going to buy it off your wife?
No. I'm going to invest in it and do it up even nicer than it is now, and do all the things she wanted to do to it, and all the little things that don't quite work right, and the way the hood goes up, and and I'm very lucky. I know this, not everyone's as fortunate. I'm very, very lucky. I've got a very, very lovely wife and a very happy marriage, and she's my life partner, my soulmate, my best friend, mother of my wonderful boys.
Were you some kind of splitting, incredibly subtle semantic heirs, stroke lawyer, stroke Colin Chapman in a previous life? Because I see what you've done here. Neil has written, I invest 25k in a classic car to make money, which to most normal people means buy a classic car for £25,000 and hopefully it will appreciate. Not you. Not you. You've read this standing on your head, haven't you?
It's good. I like it. I like the thinking.
Very cheeky.
Very
clever.
Very
clever.
Or you could let me finish and we'll get to your point.
Sorry. Sorry,
because you're not wrong. Okay, hold that thought. So it would be investment. 25k would be an investment in my wife, in our marriage, in our family, in her happiness and her contentment, and seeing her feel good about the car that's been a bigger part of her life than anything else in terms of length of time.
I've got it. I know where this is going.
That's
very
worth more than any money. So that's where...
Damn. I'm so disappointed. I thought you were going to say that will blindside her into allowing me to buy all sorts of other shit that I wouldn't otherwise get past the steering committee because she's happy with the TR6.
Our producer suggested that might be my motive as well. Hush thy mouths.
I thought it was divorce avoidance strategy.
No, it's because I'm very fortunate, and I wanted to say how much I love my wife, and I think I also have an answer to the question.
For fuck's sake.
It's a Rolls-Royce Camargue.
Fuck me, where are you getting one of them for 25
I went on Car and Classic today, and I found an ex-Middle East, British registered, left-hand drive, Rolls-Royce Camargue,
A single wheel.
light mint green over avocado. It's 50, 60,000 miles. It's mint. It's 30K offers. They'll take 25. 529 Camargues. Well, Neil, you know about this.
I do.
So I think if one was actually allocating, fortunately, another 25K, I would go for a Rolls-Royce Camargue.
Oh, I think
as long as it doesn't need 50 grand spending on it.
Doesn't look like it does. 529 of them. It's the forgotten.
What a start to the show. I just can't, first of all, I need to recap here. Cooper's come in. He's not answered the question, but he's done it in such a beautiful way that we basically had to give him a hug, and we love that, and we love Lynn. He's then answered the question by saying there's one for 30 grand when the question was, what can you buy for 25? He then said they'll take offers, and I quote, he thinks it's in good condition, and he didn't mention his qualifying lap in a Caterham in Spa in 2001.
All upside there.
This is a remarkable start to the show, and one that I'm loving. Neil Clifford, follow that, you bastard.
Oh, easily. Although, send me the link for the Camargue, a two-tone Camargue.
No, don't buy it.
Fucking hell, that sounds great. That blue whale leather. So, a lot of thinking goes on this, not only for this little question, but I think about these things all the time. This is daily thinking. This is, you can't sleep at night, and instead of counting sheep, this is the thing you do. You go on to Car and Classics with a number, and you just search all the brand names with a value, and you get all these things that you forgot they existed.
Yeah.
So,
like a Rolls-Royce Camargue.
Exactly. Yeah. I bought one for 60 grand. It broke down 3 times. I gave it back and got a refund.
Yeah, that's the one I'm buying.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what's my logic here? Really, there's only 2 or 3 marks where you can make money. Really. But most of those 3 marks, there's not much for 25 grand, Porsche, Ferrari. Where else do you go, really? Unless you go super niche and silly money, you don't make money ever buying a Maserati. You don't make money ever buying an Alfa Romeo, unless you could get in like the TARDIS and go back to the 70s. They struggle to appreciate. Rolls is a bit hit and miss. Bentley's a bit hit and miss. Anything with 4 doors, forget it. Nothing goes up if it's got 4 doors. So, there's a lot of study that we all do this.
Hold on. Your mate Neil at the hairpin company reckons these Mercedes E500s go up by the week.
Yes, we should get him on as a guest,
and
he can talk up the E500. He's probably even got a special one-of-one right-hand drive.
Yeah. If you're listening, Mr. Dickens, we love you, but make that E500 more affordable, because I can't afford the bugger at the moment. Right, carry on, Neil.
So I've ended up really landing on Porsche, because you can't really buy a Ferrari for 25. It might be an eBay Mondial, but we all know where that's going to end up. So you're then at Porsche. The simple choice, the simple answer, of course, and I'm talking my own book here, is 996. But I'm not going 996, because actually Evo are talking that up for me. They borrowed my car. It's the best car in this month's edition. They're 35 grand now, even though I paid 22 grand about 2 months ago. So thank you very much, Richard Meaden. So I'm going a bit off piece, Porsche. I'm looking at, you're all looking very quizzical here. Where's he going? Is he going? I'm going 944 turbo.
Oh,
I think you could argue.
Got one.
But no, he sold it. He had 10 people. It was 40 grand.
Was it? Oh, right.
It only had 17,000 miles.
Yeah.
But he had people queuing up for it because, let me just talk through 10 seconds. It's modern enough that it ain't a TR6. We all know the people that love, including us, cars of the 50s and 60s and 70s. They're mainly fucking dead. No one's buying those cars anymore. Okay, you could argue there's going to be an XK120 revival when all the young people realise how cool that car is. But that's quite a difficult bet. So really 80s, 90s, you've got the reliability, you've got the chance of getting to the South Side hustle in Wimbledon and going to your little car shows. You've probably got air conditioning that's going to work because it's German. You've got a Porsche. You've got something that most people don't really know what a 944 is. I think 944 is a better strategy than 968. I went down the 968, but to me, even though at the time we liked the 968 and it was prettier, I don't think it is. I think 944 with those beautiful wide arches, that dashboard, you want that solid dash. You want the cloth seats. You don't go cabriolet. It's easy to go cabriolet, but I don't think value-wise you're going to get cabriolet moving like you are a standard 944. Clearly, you want silver rose, ideally. You want that turbo signature down the front wing. You want those lovely 959 cloth seats, but it's going to be quite leggy on the mileage, but definitely 944 for me. And it would, come back to me in 10 years' time and it'd be 40 grand.
You see, that's good maths, not man maths. Man maths is flawed. That's not flawed. That's good.
There's a pig flying outside my flat.
No, right.
Look, they used to be 12 grand. They've doubled already.
Yeah, it's good maths.
No one's paying that money for them. Right. Let's move on to Manish.
It's so funny you talk about 944. It wouldn't have been my car, but when I was in Rome last week, I met just a very nice fan of the pod called Eske, and he told me that he owns a 924, and we got chatting about kind of that era, and I said I was absolutely madly in love with the 944 turbo, and he said, I think they're going up in value.
He's right.
But he said that. We just had a quick chat, but that wouldn't be my car. Now I always get this completely wrong, and I think I'm going to stick to my guns on how I work with this. I just go with a car that I'm in absolute love with right now for the money. And it's got some kind of quality that I think is a little bit, it's got legs on it. That's all it is. And what I found was a 2000 Lotus Elise S1.
Yeah.
No, wait, a couple of little
bad.
tiny things. It is the Type 49 with the gold leaf livery.
Yeah.
I've found that, baby. There weren't that many made.
Yeah.
And if you remember, this livery made its debut at the Spanish Grand Prix, 1968. So it was straight after Jim Clark had been killed. Graham Hill won that race.
Yeah.
I think this car's got a little bit of everything. It's a beautiful looking thing.
They are pretty.
And I think you can buy it for £25,000. And I think I would.
Has that got the open headlights? It hasn't got the...
Exactly. No, it hasn't. It's got the closed headlights.
Okay.
I mean, it's a Target. I mean, it's got a roof. It's beautiful. 1.8.
I've owned that exact car. It's a fantastic bloody car, that.
As the unofficial adjudicator here, self-appointed, so far of the three, Manish has it for me. I think a Lotus Elise in a few years' time is going to look like a very, very clever investment.
Yeah, I think that's good because it's timeless. It could come out now.
Yeah.
So, and also, don't forget, all of your appreciation needs to be balanced against what it costs to keep it on the road, Mr. Cooper.
There's some at the door, actually. I just need to go to the door.
I think Lynn's going to do it for him.
Yeah, I know. Right, here we go. So, Elise was on my list, but I shied away from it. I'm now feeling like I've made a mistake. So,
yeah, me too.
I agree that the big three are the obvious ones when it comes to vehicles appreciating, but so few of their products actually exist at the £25,000 mark that are usable. You can find yourself a very, very leggy Mondial that's been lying in salt water like I did, and frankly it might go up in value a bit, but the pain it causes you just isn't worth the appreciation because you'll be in straitjacket by the time you get to the future. So, but I do think there are little pockets of cleverness that exist outside of the big three, and you need to apply the following tests. Right now, is there a vehicle that reminds us that car company in its present form is being forced to go in a direction it doesn't want to go in, and we're going to miss a particular type of car? If so, how rare was that car? Was there a version of it that was very rare and very extraordinary that came out perhaps in a recession or wasn't loved at the time but has been remembered more fondly afterwards? So what we want something that's spectacular, unrepeatable, reminds us that you couldn't make that car now, that it resonates with the enthusiast audience, that it's £25,000. And I've said it before, but it is the clown shoe. The BMW M Coupe, those, you could buy one with 25 grand that's done 110,000 miles. That car is going up in value now because it's super cool, because young people think it looks really cool as well.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to skyrocket.
It's actually changed since you last showed it on screen. It's going up that well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are good. Yeah, they are good, I think.
I hadn't realised they'd already got that far.
Yeah.
I think I've lost that. Well, I lost the second part of it. The first part is just a winner.
No, but there's that S54 thing.
Oh, honestly, that really is. I've just been driving my Roadster all day, hence the reason my face is burnt. And all you need to do is change the diff ratio on an S50, and you've got a car that goes even quicker. And also, I've just put 10 mil wheel spacers on my rears, so then now the dish looks even better in that wheel arch.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just get the cheap one. The S54s are about £30,000.
Really?
For an M Coupe, they're £50,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you don't need to do that. You need to get those spacers on. Look at those wheels.
That's dish.
Right. Wasn't that a fun start to today's show? Let's move on to what's the quickest time you've known that a car is going to be great when you drive it for the first time? I'm going to answer this first. I don't often go first, but I'm going to answer it first because I know my learned colleagues have driven all sorts of cars and know lots about cars, but I reckon I've probably driven a few more. And also, I used to get paid to do it. And first impressions do count. And sometimes you know you're in the presence of absolute greatness. In fact, it happens. I was lucky. I started doing this in 1997 or 1998. And I came at a time when greatness was happening more and more often. But there are two cars that stand out for me in my road testing career. The first, which is the second most significant for me, was the BMW E39 M5. When we drove a Jaguar, myself and Steve Sutcliffe drove a Jaguar XJR all the way to Austria, driving through a town called Rimsting. I've said that before, always remember Rimsting. And we got there, slept for a few hours, picked this thing up, and Steve drove it and came back going, wow, threw me the keys and said, what do you think to that? And I went, oh my God. You know it's great when you feel sorry for the opposition. That's the defining moment where you think, oh my God, I wouldn't want to be Mercedes and Jaguar trying to compete with this. But by far and away, the best car I've driven out of the box compared to what was available from contemporary manufacturers, what had gone before it, and actually what had gone since, was the first Gen 1 Ford Focus I drove. Which I remember driving it. I used to go and stay with. I have a brother, which not something I publicise very often, who lives not far from Millbrook Circuit. He won't be listening to this. And there's a pretty fantastic road. There used to be a great road where you come off at Flitwick and wiggle along near to where to stay with him. And I remember driving down this road, going a bit quicker, thinking, I need to try and make this thing trip over itself, and it just wouldn't. It was absolutely the best car I'd driven down that road. That included Imprezas and BMWs and all sorts. It was, I'm lucky to meet Jim Farley, the new Ford boss, at the weekend, name drop. But we talked about Richard Parry-Jones in that conversation.
Yeah.
And, I mean, good Lord, were we lucky to have him. This is a bloke who, when they said, you can't have independent rear suspension, went, we're going to have independent rear suspension.
On a hatchback.
On a hatchback. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. But what an amazing result. I mean, the car was, we didn't realise how spoilt we were. It was amazing. It was like going into McDonald's and being served 3 courses from the finest Italian restaurant. It really was.
It's a good analogy.
It was McDonald's budget, and it was absolute Michelin grade food. And we were incredibly lucky. And I think we slightly appreciated it. So there you go. Those are my two out the box. Manish, what about you?
So I have to go back to 1988, and I like this. I sold that summer cars for Mitsubishi, and they also had a used car dealership. It was Riverside Mitsubishi. I had just completed my pre-clinical exams. I got my green card, so I was actually allowed to do a proper job. And
Sorry,
talked
Manish,
about
have
this
you
car.
just told us you used to be a car salesman?
Yes. You
I
knew
didn't know
Anthony's
that.
car sales. I actually got the top. I did the job for 2 months, and the second month I was top salesman.
Manish, you're
I
one
made
of
a
us.
bit of money.
The Americans love a British accent.
Yeah, you did notice one of my key details, and
Yeah.
they teach you a few things like when you go out. Nice warm days in California. The first person who goes out, when you talk to a customer, that is known as upping them. And if that car gets sold, you get 50% of the commission. If you also close, you get the whole 100%. But if you're finding it very difficult to close a car, you turn it over to a fellow salesman. And if he closes, you still get your 50%. It was such an enjoyable, it was literally the 2 months I most enjoyed. In fact, I remember the first time I reverse parked a very small Mitsubishi, and let's just say it wasn't at 90 degrees to the parking lines. They left it there for 2 days, wonkily, until I reparked it. They said that was to teach you a lesson. I remember my sales manager, he was called Sam Wallen, and he had served in the American Air Force in England in the Second World War. He loved me because of my voice, actually.
Yeah.
It was fantastically straightforward selling. They just believe you.
Yeah.
I used to say all kinds of things that they believed.
Manish,
But I love the cars.
you're wasted
Yes.
on the motion picture industry.
I know this is.
This is a revelation.
Who are you? Who are you, and what have you done with Manish?
Yeah. I think Manish would be a hugely successful salesperson in America on
So
anything.
do I.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, I know it.
You've got to
Anyway,
make this
so
happen.
we got
You could
a
sell.
brand-
You could sell a biopic on Prost.
There are limitations to everyone. Okay.
Not to a good salesperson.
No. So
You
we
could
got,
do some upping.
I'd certainly do something. So we got
Sorry, carry on.
a 1988 Mitsubishi Starion, the 2.6 turbo.
Oh,
The Starion. The Starion.
Starion.
I have to say, I got in this car, drove it round sort of downtown Riverside a little bit. I would love taking people for rides in that and letting them go. It's a wonderful, wonderful car, super underrated. And actually, its aesthetics weren't that different from the 944 of the time. And that used to be, because it had that kind of slightly
Wedgy, but yeah.
But
Yeah,
they did a
with
second
that-
gen with the blistered arches, which looks
Exactly.
bloody, that looks brilliant. That one.
That was in
I thought the
touring car
was
racing. Yeah, it was saloon car racing. Yeah.
And it cost at the time, I remember it was something like literally half the price of a 944 turbo. And it just had the best gearbox. And it was just big, fat, wide tires. I loved that car. I love that car. I sold one in those 2 months. I remember I got $350 as a commission for doing it, which at that time
Was it really a mistake that car was supposedly called the Stallion?
No, so it's supposed to be Star Orion, I think. That was where the actual name
Yeah.
came from. The Star
That rings a
Orion.
bell.
There's a rumour that they spelt it wrong for
Stallion.
Is a better story.
Much better story.
Yeah.
Much better
It's certainly,
story.
it's certainly the one I run with, because Star Orion isn't funny, but Starion is really
Starion.
funny.
That's what I remember the story.
Yeah, I've
It was
definitely
a
written that before, so if it's not
fantastic-
true, then I need to apologise to a lot of people. Let's move on to the Neil Clifford.
So I've got two. I'll do a Chris and start with the one that's in number 2 position. When I none of us could really, well, I talk for myself, but I think it's the same. None of us could really afford Porsche in period in 70s, 80s, well, 70s I was bloody 12 years old,
Yeah.
but 80s, even 90s, I dragged myself into Porsche in about 2002 with a really shitty old 3.2 cab bought from quite a famous dealership up in Yorkshire, which unfortunately got involved in some sort of messy business no longer exists anymore. We all
Don't
know who
talk
that
about
is. And anyway, but it was really crap. You know when it's got 60,000 miles on the clock, but it's like 260. You know those lovely carpets that look 100 years. So Porsche for me initially was a big disappointment because I'm like, oh God, it's cool that I own a Porsche, but this is actually a bit crap, really. You don't know how to use the ventilation. It's all a bit bubbly on the paint. and then I went straight from 3.2 cab. The only good thing about that car, the registration number was P911 Ham,
Oh,
which I should have kept that number plate because it's quite good. Or A911 Ham. Anyway, it was. But then I went straight from 3.2 cab shitty straight to 996 GT3 Mark 1.
That's a big step.
Big step. And I remember it was what was
Lots
it?
of shoes sold there, Neil.
No, well, they were 42 grand at the time. You know, they'd sort of gone up. I think they were only 75 or something new, weren't they? This would have been in 2005, 6.
a bit more than that new.
Yeah, they were, I say 80 new, and I paid like 42 for it or something. Black. I didn't really know all the technicalities of it, so it wasn't club sport. Black leather, jet black, not ball salt. So I don't think they did ball salt in Mark 1, actually, only Mark 2. But so I had this car delivered to my little house in Muswell Hill and got in it. And you start that engine and you're like, oh my fucking good God, I've actually bought a race car. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And this, I should, and you've obviously got to go to the dentist if you're, going over a speed bump and all of that. And, but I just felt like, wow, this is the first supercar that I've experienced. This thing is amazing. So 99, and I have owned quite a lot of 996 GT3s because I adore them. I know the clever man's choice is the Mark II, but I love the.
Before you carry on, can I just ask, is there any coincidence of what you just told me you bought last week?
Of course. For the second time, the same car. Another Neil Dickens story.
And it will come to the market again soon.
I did not buy it. It actually came free because I'd swapped 2 cars for it. So the man maths.
See, that is definitely man maths.
That's really man maths.
Unbelievable.
But of course, one can convince yourself that, you've saved on road tax, insurance, storage,
Bank
what
charges.
A deal. What a deal. But then there was this little, I can't remember what it was. What was it called? There was a little, the internet was almost just beginning then, wasn't it? 2002, and there were all these little forums, and there was a special forum that I found through Pistonheads, which was just about the GT3 Mark 1, and it could tell you how many colours there were, how many club sports, where they were. You could talk to the owners. You suddenly entered into this amazing new world of the internet and people that is brilliant.
Was it like a secret meeting, Neil?
It's like a secret meeting. We should talk about the secret meeting one day. And
Porscheaholics Anonymous. I could really see that.
I know. I can't remember the name of that little. It was like a really basic little sort of forum-y thing that some bloke had created, in his bedroom. Do you know what I mean? And coded it.
Jim and Rolf's Porsche experience.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember. But anyway, the real answer, to sound like Chris Cooper, is the Alpine 110.
Oh.
And I know it's a bit Marmite, the Alpine 110. Everyone's a bit like, and I don't, I can't really remember Chris's view on this. I think he's got a similar view of the Mazda MX-5. But
to be clear, I love the Alpine on a British road. Good God!
Yeah, and that car, and I could be a salesman for Alpine. You can tell it's a magnificent, unique car in 100 meters.
Yeah, you can.
It's like, oh my God, this feels half the weight of any other car.
Literally.
And it's in that regard, it's like an Elise, isn't it, or an original Elan? It's got that uniqueness of feel. And I'm not, I would like to work for Autocar. I need to talk to Steve Cropley. Maybe I could be a guest. I could be a guest car tester. But the steering, it's all about the lightness, frankly. Most of it if that car weighed like a normal car, it's probably shit.
Yeah.
It's just so light that it feels incredible. And that would be definitely my number one comment on that subject.
2 very good choices there. Chris Cooper.
You've all said some really interesting things, which was kind of in my thinking as well. And the Elise you mentioned earlier, there's a category we should come back to, which was the car that didn't meet or beat expectations. And the first time I drove an Elise, I was actually disappointed in how it drove. It felt quite understeery. The steering felt lower geared than I thought, and that gear change was just a bag of rubber bands.
What does that all mean?
It's auto car talk. It's auto car talk. I'm training you. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
The Mark I Focus I first drove when a wheel fell off the Land Rover Discovery that Lynn and I had at the time on the M40. Literally a wheel fell off.
Oh my God.
And they came and recovered it. And then where I was going to somewhere in the Midlands, they brought the recovery company brought a hire car, a Mark I Ford Focus. What? It was unbelievable. So I'm with Chris on that. But the one that wins for me, and actually Chris has already said it, but this was my suggestion as a question. And I had this car in mind when I thought about the question. And it was the quickest time, and I wasn't even driving it. I was a passenger in it. And it was an E39 535. And I didn't want to buy it. It was Profit's BMW in Gerrard's Cross. If anybody's a million years old like me, us, they'll remember that Profit's Gerrard Cross had a new car showroom on Station Road, where the Waitrose is now. Sorry, this is in Buckinghamshire for those living in America or other of our former colonies, southeast of England. And the used car showroom, which was a bit more interesting. People are still listening. We haven't got to the bit later on about months. That's when you want to take cover.
By the way, this afternoon we had a discussion I just met Chris briefly. We had a discussion about how to increase our American audience. So I have no idea where he's going with this.
Take me to California. That will do it.
Jesus Christ.
The used car showroom was like on the main drag. So the salesman, I was looking for an M3 Evo. They had an M3 Evo that I was really interested in. It was in 1999. And the salesman said, look, pop in this smoking thing I've got and we'll just go around the corner to where the used car showroom is. I didn't bother looking at the M3. So I then drove it. And the one I properly drove for the first time was one I bought, a 540 Sport, the 17-inch vaned wheels. It just, everything about it. Richard Parry, and this comes back to somebody you mentioned as well, Chris, Richard Parry Jones. I think Richard Parry Jones was famous for his 100-meter test.
Yeah.
How special does the car feel within the first 100 meters?
Yeah.
And that E39 540 felt special before I'd got out of the dealership's car park. It's the one actually, Neil, not far from you, the one between Tring and Berkhamsted. It's a Sytner one now.
Yeah, is it Cow Roast, ironically?
Cow Roast, exactly. Explain that one in California. It's actually a village.
Yes, not BMW Cow Roast.
Yeah. So E39.
Berkhamsted's where my favourite fictional writer, Ed Reardon, lives. I think Ed Reardon's Week is one of the greatest comedies ever written. Absolutely joyous. If you don't listen to it, go and listen to Ed Reardon's Week. Right. F1 and Le Mans. I don't know where we're supposed to begin with this. Two quite big subjects. We'll try and keep them reasonably brief. But I'm going to start off asking Manish about the Formula One first. And then he can blend it into Ferrari's wonderful victory at what is the biggest motor race in Europe.
Well, the Formula One race, which we were kind of chatting to each other about whilst it was going on, did very quickly descend into positions 1, 2, 3, and 4 being positions 1, 2, 3, and 4. The two out-of-place guys, Charles and Lando, tried a slightly different strategy, and it kind of worked. There was a bit of a hoo-ha with Charles and Ferrari. He wanted to go his own way with strategy. Ferrari sort of wouldn't let him, and it was all a bit blancmangy, actually. In fact, the only thing that I found vaguely interesting was the fact that, you know where the hairpin is at Canada? You get a great view. I've never been there, but I've had friends who've gone to the Canadian Grand Prix and they try to get tickets in the grandstand by the hairpin because you see them all coming at you for ages.
Yeah,
they brake very, very hard. They come around and then you see them go off. So you get a lot of view. And normally the big screen there shows the Grand Prix, but it looks as if they have the trailer for the F1 movie on permanent loop.
They
All
did.
that they did. They
That,
did.
if I had paid £300 or £400 for a ticket, I would have been very pissed off.
Yeah.
Because just to see, it's like a bad song that gets into your head. That must have driven them a bit mad.
Yeah.
Must have done.
Under that heading, we talked about this before we came on air. Can the four of us, I know getting us together is impossible, so this is a full on home. Can the four of us go and watch the F1 movie together, please?
Oh, we got to try. We got to try.
We are together on Friday.
Ah,
Yeah,
right.
we are.
Okay. And then we'll go. Let's go to the Max. By the way, I thought his driving was just pretty goddamn extraordinary. This is not a fast corner circuit. This is all about going very, very quickly, braking for a 90-degree right or a 90-degree left with a couple of hairpins, and that was fine. The Lando Oscar moment. So, Lando's clearly shown, in my opinion, he does not have a sort of bad bone in his body. He's just not a bad person. He is competitive. He's incredibly quick. And he had made a bit of a cock-up of qualifying. He admitted that. Andrea, I think, had said, he was really guilty just of overdriving, just trying too hard during qualifying. And that
I do that.
And that incident was just
can
the
teach you
same.
not
It
to
was
do
just an
that.
extension of that.
Put it on pole. Trucks in on Friday. You'll be fastest now.
Wait, shut up. Let Manish finish. Both of you. Bad
No,
behaviour. That's an official slap on wrist. He was just in full flow there.
Well, the thing that I looked at the moment, and you saw Lando had the speed at the end. His strategy had delivered that speed. Oscar, for me, has just been, I keep saying it, he is a revelation. He is strategic, not just in a race, but about this season. The opening maneuver that Antonelli made on him, he let it go. He could have fought the balls off of that. And he went, you know what? The difference between 15 and 12 points at this point is irrelevant. This is George Russell who's leading. This is Antonelli in third. I'm competing against Max, and it doesn't really matter. And I thought he let him go, and I don't know if he would have gone for it in the very last part. Maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't. Both the McLarens were quick. Where I just felt McLaren possibly could have handled it better is to have said, look, Lando, we're literally in the last 10 laps, don't fight each other unless it's for the championship. We're about a third or 40% of the way through the season. And actually, I think just probably won't make myself too popular at McLaren, but I probably would have said that with 10 laps to go, just don't fight each other. You can have a go all the way through the race, and you've got so much of the season to go. And that would be my only thought, because I do feel Lando's overdriving, and I do feel this pressure from within he's got. We talked about Max, didn't we, a few weeks ago, how he was pushed beyond kind of endurance and he did something very stupid. Of course it was wrong, but it was, as we said, at 40 miles an hour. It was more impetuous. It was like a video gamer's move. Lando seems to be going through something kind of quite similar. And I know he's had his little moment of glory a couple of Grand Prix ago, but he's back to that kind of, I got to win. That gap wasn't a gap. He admits that. And thank God he didn't put Oscar out, because I think if they put each other out, if he'd punctured Oscar's tyre, for example, the end plate, instead of just bouncing off it, then I think, it could have been quite a bad day for all of McLaren in the office. But I think as it stands, listen, it's forgotten, and I think they will move on. But I do wonder whether they will issue a little instruction saying, come on, 10 laps to go, you're not fighting for the championship, do not take each other out. It's as dumb as a first corner incident. And then just segueing into Le Mans, I'm a huge amount to say, but I really enjoyed it. I logged on, I watched it on and off for the whole 24 hours. When I had a little moment, watched 5 minutes of it, I thought I was always a bit in love with Robert Kubica. I think to have seen him as world champion from Poland would have been amazing for Formula One, not seeing an Italian, a Brit, a Polish driver. And there was something I do remember about him. Apparently he was a massively good poker player, like massively good.
Really?
And Alonso's supposed to be the best of the lot. He could beat Alonso, and I think that was part of their friendship. There's one other thing about Kubica, which a lot of people don't know. There's a light test that Formula One drivers do, where they have, I think they put up the name of a colour So you say green or you say red. You can then have it in its color, so you can see a red, or you'll see a blue red or a green red. And what you're going to do is with your left hand, if the color matches the word, you hit your left hand. And if the color doesn't match the word, you hit your right hand. And it's supposed to be a massively intuitive test of your processor speed. It's supposed to be one of the purest tests. Apparently, Kubica was unbeaten at that.
Wow.
His processor was so quick. And this is a boy who went from Poland, and I think he slept on the floor of the DAP car factory amongst the sort of sawdust and crap because he had no money and he was going to make it. And I have to say, it broke my heart when he had that rallying accident. It just broke my heart. Only because a possible career I might have had is as a hand surgeon. And when I'd heard that his median nerve had been severed, so that's the big one that goes here. And people said, oh, well, they've done lots of stitching and it'll all be fine. It's not. Imagine a giant oil pipe with thousands of garden hoses in the middle. Imagine chopping that in half and just gluing the big pipe together, hoping the billions of little hoses will find their way. That was what was going to happen. And to see him sort of make that comeback, I found that very hard. And then to see him not just win at Le Mans, but do those multiple stints at the end. And then no change in his personality at the end, almost to a max, and go, yeah, I won.
Yeah, that's good.
What an absolute joy. And to do that for the non-kind of Ferrari team, to do it for AF Course. I know they are all made by the AF or looked after by the AF Course team, but, you know, guy won a yellow Ferrari. How cool is that?
That's not what do you know what? He won in a yellow Ferrari. That is so cool. You're quite right.
Yeah.
That hadn't registered. You're quite right, Manish. Neil, did you watch the Formula One?
I turned it off and watched the Antiques Roadshow. I did. Because I don't know, because I'd knackered, I did loads of stuff, I was falling asleep, and actually I missed the one interesting bit, which was the McLaren crash. The Antiques Roadshow was more interesting.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a pain in the arse, really, because you're always optimistic, aren't you? You reset.
Yeah.
You forget.
Yeah.
You
I hope it
forget
killed us.
the last one was bad, or maybe the last one was. You always approach it with pure optimism that the race is going to be amazing, and it sort of wasn't. It was, it was crap basically, and then I turned over. But I watched most of Le Mans. I was stupid and annoyed that I wasn't there, and I did my best to watch more of it than normal. I got up at 4 a.m. The dog's like, what are you doing up at 4 a.m. on a Sunday?
Yeah.
Cup of tea, lovely.
This is my lie on the chair I shouldn't lie on and lick my balls time.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my balls only time.
What does the dog say though?
The old ones are the best ones.
And you know what? We went on about it last week, and Chris was there, so I'm sure Chris could articulate it very well. It's a magnificent event. Everyone should go once. Anyone that ever listens to this podcast, if you haven't been at all, go. It's just wonderful for so many reasons. And I had mates there and connected to Ferrari, and I sort of wanted that Porsche to win. I thought it would just be really good because truth is, you always want to support Porsche. Oh, I do.
It's kind of Porsche's race. It just feels when you go there, just feels like Porsche's in its happy place. It really does. So I get what you're saying. Chris Cooper, thoughts on the F1 and then the Le Mans?
So I watched the F1 race on teletext. Or the modern equivalent to it, which is the live timing app on your little phone. I think it was Gary Lineker years ago said, he's a British footballing person and now pundit, soon to be ex, that he used to watch a particular football team on teletext because it was more interesting watching them live. And I'm kind of got there with F1 really. So I saw there'd been a thing at the end, so I rushed inside to watch the interesting bit and then went back to where I'd been sitting in the garden looking at the grass growing, which was a bit more enjoyable. So I'm going to talk about Le Mans. I said last week, we've never had it so good. And in some respects, the competitiveness of this race, most of the time, I'll say something about that in a moment, it was really interesting to watch. There was actual motor racing going on. cars were dicing, sliding around, trying to outbrake themselves. They weren't tyre saving in the third hour. No, they were going for it. It looked like a proper motor race, competitive, bit of argy-bargy. Kevin Estre.
Oh, God.
In the number 6 car. He's just from another planet, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mention him because this coming weekend, he'll be in the Nürburgring 24 hours.
Ooh.
And the following weekend, I think it's the Spa 24 hours.
Yeah.
3 24-hour races in 3 weeks. And he carried that number 6 Porsche. Like you, I mean, of all the brands there, Le Mans means more to Porsche than it does to any of the other brands there. If Jaguar were there, you could argue a while ago that was true. We need to come back and talk about Jaguar another time. I know we all talk about them, but that's why it's really important. And that's why we react the way we do to Porsche, because of all of that. It's not made up, it's real. It's called brand equity, Jaguar. Come back to another time. So I think Kevin Estre's, but like Manish, it was such a fairy story to see Robert Kubica win. I felt, I don't know him, I've not met him, but when he had that accident back in 2011 or 12, whenever it was, 2011, it was like, just so unfair. And he loves driving. He's like Max. He just loves driving competition cars, and he was doing this rally somewhere in Europe in an F2. Wasn't even a full work super duper duper at the front. I love this. I love tarmac rallying. And like so many people over the years, they've just, freak horrible accidents, and he survived, but, really, really badly wounded. And when he came back to Formula One, he was literally 70% of the time driving with one hand. You could see, first time I've seen him for a while, out of the car, and he's clearly protecting that wounded hand. So I thought...
He used to hide it. You weren't allowed to see it. Now he's obviously decided he's got the confidence to show you it. It's different now.
Really?
And the yellow car, there's somebody had done a little sort of meme spoof thing of that, the Lewis photograph in front of Enzo's house. And there was a yellow F40 with Robert in a black gown like Lewis. So I thought that was really, really cool. So Nürburgring next weekend. Literally today, we're recording this on the 18th of June. It's the 98th birthday of the Nürburgring circuit. Happy birthday, Nürburgring.
Chris, sorry, just before you, there was one thing I was just going to say. Robert Kubica, he had a contract with Ferrari for 2013. Yeah. He should have been in that Formula One car. Luca hired him. It is a kind of heartbreaking story, and this is the closest I've come to seeing a slight fairy tale in the kind of modern hard.
I think it would make a great movie.
I think it would make a great movie. Great movie. Sorry.
Isn't it strange how Ferrari's increasingly frantic effort to win F1 races, let alone a championship, does look frantic, and it looks like there's lots of pain and anguish, and yet it rocks up to Porsche's territory at Le Mans, and it's just won 3 out of 3. And it's pretty remarkable what Ferrari's doing in Le Mans, and it looks effortless.
And they weren't cheating at all.
Does. Stop that. And so they're dominating a race that they probably shouldn't, and they're really struggling in another area. Le Mans was fantastic for me. I did a support race, which was a bit of a... Well, you'll see the video of it. You can go onto YouTube and see Mustang Invitational. But the one I did was just crash, bang, wallop, avoid everything you could, overtake as many cars as you could, and we had a reasonable result. And I want to thank Ford for inviting me, because the Mustang Dark Horse, no pun intended.
It's a great name, though, isn't it?
It's a great name, and you know what? It's basically when you've got 40 of them, 20,000 horsepower coming down, unsilenced V8s coming down the pit straight. It does sound pretty impressive. They're agricultural. They were great fun. Ford were extremely accommodating hosts, and we all spent a lot of time smiling. And I didn't rub any pounds on anyone. That's basically because I drove off the circuit to avoid most of the lunatics. So once we got through that, I then did the grid. I got onto the grid at Le Mans. I've never done that before. What a grid that is. So in terms of just real estate,
long.
You start at the back with the GT3 cars. If you walk slowly, give yourself well over an hour to get to the front if you want to look at all the cars. It goes on and on, out of 60-odd cars. And they've all got their entourage. They've all got their people that want to talk to you, and it's just wonderful. And it just keeps going. You think there's more, there's more, there's more. So the grid was magnificent. thank you to Ford for getting me on. And I went had a good look round the 963 that's got the fat livery on it, which I'm more closely associated with than the others, maybe. More of a party outfit, but good God, still an amazing car with an amazing bunch of drivers. So I then thought, right, I'm knackered because I've just done this race. I'm going to sit and start the race. And I went to the BMW hospitality and I sat on my own and watched the start on the screens whilst everyone went out and tried to watch a bit of rear wing. I always think I love hearing the noise of the cars, but I want to see what was going on. And really, as Chris has pointed out, it was the Kevin Estre story. If you look at the quality of drivers on display, he did what I'd like to term a Nick Tandy. Because when Tandy in the 919 showed a lot of people, including Formula One drivers, the way to do it, Estre did the same thing. He started at the back, the 21st, I think, in his class. And I think by the time his stint came to an end, I think he was in net second.
Yeah.
It was absolutely dominant driving in a car that we now know wasn't as quick as the other cars. So, I slight hero worship. So go and celebrate Kevin Estre. Go and look at type in his name, and I don't want to say it because I'll get in trouble, but type in qualifying Nürburgring 24 hours. It's a lap not like many others you've seen, because I didn't know that slick tyres are supposed to work on grass and dirt, but in his hands they do. He's a beast. When he presses beast mode, he's out there. We did this last week, but you must go to Le Mans. You must go out to Mulsanne Corner and have omelette and chips. You must try and get on the inside of the circuit and go and see Indianapolis from the inside. I went to Indianapolis and I just stood there at about 1:30, 2 in the morning with my phone, watching the cars go through. And I did it with a couple of TT riders, Davey Todd and Peter Hickman, who were not easily impressed. But even they were like, they do this for 24 hours. This is impressive. And I want one little shout out. They didn't get much love on the television and they weren't really recognised as being in the hunt. But Aston Martin turned up with a couple of normally aspirated V12s.
True.
I'll tell you what, they may not have troubled the score sheet, but my God, were they the crowd favourites.
Yeah.
Every time the Valk came past, everyone cheered.
Really?
So fair play for doing that. I think it was a crowd-pleasing activity, and I'm really bloody glad they did it because the cars looked and sounded utterly brilliant.
They did look different, didn't they? They looked like they brought a car from some other race.
Yeah.
It's a road car, and the rest are all...
That's also almost quite British. And let's not forget the frankly ridiculous battle that went on in LMP2 towards the very, very end. They're like little darts, those things. So you've got these big... They're a bit more sort of shark-like. They're quite graceful, the P1 cars. The P2 cars are like angry little fucking waspy things.
Yeah.
They're dive-bombing each other, and they can't afford to lose a tenth, otherwise their team manager will be on there hitting them or something. So they're just so competitive. And then in amongst all this, the GT3 cars having their own races, trying to stay out of trouble. I got up very early, just after the sun had risen, and I went for a walk. I took in some fresh air, had coffee, bought myself a pastry, and I went down to Porsche Curves. And there's an unused hospitality bit there, which they don't really use so much, like a pit lane for a karting garage, I think. You can climb up the back of that and stand and watch them come into Porsche Curves. And the P1 cars are tipping in at 170 odd, and you see the ground effect, and and you look at those vehicles and you think, you've been doing this for about 14, 16 hours already.
Yeah.
Well, I wish they could talk. I wish they could tell us what they went through. I wish they could just go, God, you weren't bloody, but I'm aching now. Can I have an ice bath? And then afterwards, I love the fact that there are lots of photographs showing covered in their just battered bodies, peppered with insects and damage, and just the patina of adventure for me. I think that they're just patinated with an adventure that you don't get in any other race, actually. A Le Mans car, when it's finished, it's a really, really special thing. So everyone that takes part, all the drivers, all the teams, you do make it the most special motoring race, I think, in Europe. I love Formula One, but I think it's very special. I'm not going to bother talking about the Formula One, safe to say this. As a human being, Lando Norris, I absolutely love you. But I'm not sure you can be that nice and win as many as, in fact, Max Verstappen. I'm not sure the two are compatible. I hope he proves me completely wrong, because the world would be a lovely place if you could be that nice and that self-aware and go ahead and win the whole time. But I just got this funny feeling that history shows us that the most winning racers tend to be a bit more brutal.
Yeah, it's tricky. Now, Damon did it against Michael, I suppose, in the end.
Better
He
car
won
in the
one.
end. But yeah,
1-1. I know. 1-1. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well,
good God, if you want to show your kids, in the heat of the moment, to come on the radio and go, that was my fault, bloody hell.
Yeah.
He should give up now and become a father to foster children because he's
I
really
did. I was going to say that earlier. That's a very good point you've raised, and I think there is some. I do quite like the fact that when the two McLaren drivers bumped into each other in the little interview pen afterwards, it was quite sweet almost how they said, "Oh, sorry, mate. Yeah, no, it's fine. No, sorry, mate." It was like, if the two of us had bumped into each other on a karting circuit, it was sort of. It was something very. I quite like that. I don't want them to lose that. But
we shouldn't be nationalistic, but we should say, "Well done, George," shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
sorry. Good point. Very good point. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Very good point. We didn't mention the winner. Amazing drive.
Maybe there's something in that, though. Maybe there's something in the fact that we didn't mention it. But I think, he drove a superb race. We're going to have to move on because we're running out of time here.
Can I just say one thing, Chris? You can still go to Le Mans. Week after next is Classic Le Mans.
Yeah.
Oh,
brilliant reminder.
So for everyone who didn't go, including me, I am going to Classic Le Mans, and it's it's not equally lovely. It's as lovely in a different way.
Yeah, it's different.
If you want to see 3-litre RSRs going down the back straight at 180 with no exhaust silencing, I can assure you it's lovelier than in many ways. So, there we go. Thoughts on Formula One and the wonderful Le Mans, which remains the largest motorsport event in Europe, and I think always will be. Now, our other partner that we love very much, K&N, that make those beautiful air filters that I've now got on my 330 Ci track car, which we're using on Friday. This is an interesting one. You think of air filters as being a performance mod, don't you? Get more in your lungs, and you can throw more out as performance through your exhaust. But there's another side to the air filter that we need to talk about, and it's a bit more earnest and serious. It's around efficiency. These things are more efficient. You get more air in, you get more air out, your engine works better, you use less fuel. So on those lines, commuter cars. I don't know what a commuter car is, but they have there's a phrase, isn't it? What would your commuter car be, your best one, your favourite one from the last 10 years? Because almost all of these have a K&N application. I'm going to start out. I hate to say it. I think the best commuter cars are Mediterranean small hatchbacks because those are the cars that commute the most. Yes. And I know I don't like sitting in them because they're too high, but the Fiat 500 is for me the ultimate commuter car because half of Rome uses them.
Yep.
And they are the ultimate commuter. For me, they're the people that are always going from wherever they live into the war zone. Because that's what it is. You go from peacetime into war zone. That is the commuter move, isn't it? So I'm going to go Fiat 500. Chris Cooper.
Ooh. Similar logic, and I never had one. When I look at them, I think that would have been a fantastic station car, commuter car, going into London. Neil and I do quite similar journeys into town. VW Polo, mid-2010s VW Polo. It just reeks. That would do that job really, really well. Easy to park, get through the 6 feet, 2 meter width restrictions, which seem to get narrower and narrower every year.
Oh, they do.
Not for a Polo, VW Polo.
I'm guaranteeing to myself that Man is choosing the same car as me because he's completely obsessed by Italy again this week.
No, I'm not going to choose an Italian car. I'm going to choose a German car. And I'm going to go for a 10-year-old 2016 BMW 318.
Oh,
I think 318, small, nice. Not too small. It's a BMW. You can just imagine that with your little K&N filter. You just drive forever on a tank of petrol. It's a nice, civilized place to be.
That is. Nice ride.
Yeah. Neil Clifford?
I'm going to answer it as what is my favourite commuter car now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's a BMW Alpina B5. Because I know that commuter cars could be this train station car, but I don't drive to the station and park my little car. I drive. and I drive 40 miles there and 40 miles back, and it does everything. And you never get caught out with an estate. If your son wants to lift home, if the gorgeous wife wants you to pick up something, you need to give people. It does everything. It's a Swiss Army knife, and I'm sure it's got my Bob Peterson Bentley has disguised K&N. They only use K&N air filters, and I spoke to Bob, and he's like, "Mate, there's no other air filters, only K&N."
Yeah.
And I think, Chris, I think you were saying they last 1 million miles or 1 billion
they
miles.
last 1 million miles, and I think there's a slightly serious side to this. That every time you have an air filter changed, there's a paper element that comes out of it, and that has to go into the ground somewhere, or someone's got a plane or something else.
Plastic
You don't do that with these. 1 million miles, leave it in there. So I know you think that's making the piss, but they're greener as well. So go and have a look.
Did you know that 1 million? Sorry, I was just going to say, did you know that 1 million miles in mannish years is about 5 trillion years?
Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
Just can you imagine that?
Yeah, in that time, Yoda would have got some wrinkles. Okay, so now we're moving on to pillarless cars.
Ooh.
We're going to do this quite quickly, but I think this was suggested by Clifford actually. So I'm going to go for Clifford first.
Well, crikey. Should we do a special 1 hour pillarless car podcast?
No.
There's so much to talk about here, isn't it? It's basically the better looking version of the 4-door car that existed before it very often, isn't it? And 4-door cars, it's very rare to create a 4-door car that is as elegant as a 2-door car. It's really hard. You could say 6.3 or 6.9, or obviously Chris Harris E500 when they were 29,995 on howardwise.co.uk. Now they're all 80 grand. But the two-door car is always just prettier. But when you get this 4-door car, let's take the XJ12C, which for me was almost the first love of the pillarless car, and you take this 4-door car and you take a set of doors out and you make it more elegant and a bit more sporty, suddenly this ugly duckling becomes a swan.
Yeah.
And I think that's what pillarless is. And then you obviously, you don't have that pillar, which probably means the car's a bit shit, but you can put all 4 windows down, including whether they be electric, as in the Jag, or in my little W111 coupe Mercedes 1965, delivered new in Nigeria. And you wind those little 4 windows down. And it's just a beautiful thing. They're one of the most beautiful genres of cars, aren't they? So that's my little. I can go on if you want, but we just love pillarless cars. If you're going to tell you which one is my absolute favourite, I would say XJ12C. I think that Steed, the whole thing. It's a shit car, but it's pretty as hell.
Manish, pillarless.
560 SEC.
Yes,
I've always been in love with that car. I have a feeling that my wallet will be heading that way at some point.
I've got one for sale for you.
Really?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Please.
Not mine.
It's so beautiful, I think. When those windows come down, goodness me. All the proportions are just so perfect anyway. With the windows down, you're just in another.
You do need one.
Yeah, I think that could be me, actually. I
inquired about one of these to one of the Mercedes-Benz specialists that no longer exists in the UK. I'm not saying there's quite a few of them that used to be there, but not anymore.
Haven't they?
And I phoned up and said, I'm phoning up about the Mercedes 500 SEC, and he said, the Sierra Echo Charlie.
Oh, yes.
And I nearly bought it because of that. The Sierra Echo Charlie. What
a little bit of phonetic.
They're beautiful.
So Manish has sort of ended the conversation because I do think the Sierra Echo Charlie is the one, Mr. Cooper.
You see, I think there's a little conundrum to this question.
Yeah.
Because I love the look of pillarless coupes. And yet, And yet, the conundrum is when you use them in pillarless and window down mode, there's a little bit of me that says, I want the roof down now. I want the roof down now. So the winner of this for me is the car that you can't do that with. And that's why the winner is the XJC Jag.
I think XJC is the winner, but I think there are. Yeah, because they're always pillarless.
Yeah,
I'm going
Ish.
to start off by reading something because I'm going through my old car magazines. This is July '87. It's a wonderful cover, and in it, in the newcomers section at the front of the magazine, which I always used to turn to first because you did, didn't you? Is Ian Fraser going to drive the new? Look, I mean, it just looks incredible. It's a white W. Well, it's not. It's a what was it? What was the 124 coupe? C124.
124, yeah.
It's the 124 coupe.
Fuck.
Now, it just reminded me that pillarless, quite often to have impact, needs normally to be accompanied by something else, either a slightly lower roofline or a slightly different wheelbase. Rarely does pillarless work if you just take the pillars out of something that exists. It needs to have something special done to it. This is amazing.
Yeah.
This is great motoring writing. I love this because it reminds me of stuff that I didn't actually know about the car. Here we go. Some buyers may opt for a manual edition of the 300C, but the automatic is so good that changing gears for yourself seems like an exercise in futility. With the power and drivetrain characteristics the same as those on the Saloon and my own recently acquired TE, that's the estate,
Lovely.
I concentrated on finding out if the shorter wheelbase, I didn't know that, so the coupe has a shorter wheelbase than the estate. Then the shorter wheelbase and heavy two-door body introduced any dynamic differences. Extensively re-engineered to ensure the integrity of the structure, the coupes actually weigh more than their Saloon counterpart.
Yeah.
So the coupe
Know that.
124 weighs more than the... Who knew that?
No,
Brilliant.
didn't know that.
There you go. That's the genius of this. So for me, I agree with Chris, but I disagree at the last moment. What I love about pillarless is that it gives me that sort of slight elbow out the window convertible feel.
Yeah.
But I don't need to have the roof off. So it just feels like I'm a bit more open than I would otherwise be.
Yeah.
True.
So it feels, and I just think it's the most gorgeous looking thing. And once you're around pillarless cars, when you're suddenly in the presence of a pillared car, it's a bit of an affront, really, isn't it?
That is definitely
who
true.
put that there?
Yeah.
850. BMW 850.
Yeah,
I know.
I had that on my list.
I know.
What a great car.
Yeah.
I mean, but let's face it. There's one way to spoil pillarless. If you can't fully hide your rear window when it goes down,
That's heinous.
if you leave what was always, I thought, kindly known as the shark fin, you slightly spoil it for me. But I do love pillarless. I think they're absolutely gorgeous things. Right, let's move on.
Even E30 320 coupe
Yeah,
was sort of an affordable pillarless, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't quite the elegance of the big four-door, but it still was lovely. You still had those four little buttons. You could put them all down,
Get that.
stick on your Stars by Simply Red. Fucking what an album!
Maybe leave that one to you.
Honestly, what an album!
it is. Filmy.
Oh,
Filmy. I don't know who that was written by or for. So let's go to our two-car garage
yeah.
this week.
One.
Brought to you by, very proudly for us, Car and Classic, where I went to bed last night at 9:45 and I was still looking at that website at 11. So I don't know whether we should praise it, but it might owe me some sleep. So I'm now going to read out this week's two-car garage. You are... I can't believe I'm reading this. You are a monk. Now, anyone that went to school with me when I was 14 years old will know that references one of my nicknames because I was named after a character on the Cannonball Run. You might now know what my nickname was. Sammy Davis Jr. was known as the Chocolate Monk. That was my nickname. You have been around the world in various monasteries, contemplating, meditating, and generally doing monk-like things. You especially like Japan. Observing your vow of chastity means that you have nurtured other, arguably more important desires. Cars. You've returned to England, to a rural monastery where the roads are flat black ribbons of tarmac through verdant gorse. The yearly sale of your famed monastic ale has yielded 25,000 of your sterling pounds, with which the Father Superior has asked you to buy 2 cars. One, a heavy-duty 4x4 to transport barrels, and the other, heavy goods. The other, a car of your choice to travel to other monasteries of your order. God bless you. Right. Other religions are available, is all I'm going to say to that one. Mannish, like an impish pandy. You can go first.
Oh, well, I'm going to make this quick. I found this rather beautiful Ford Ranger for £11,000. I think you can get 4 monks and a couple of large barrels of mead into the back of that, and no problem at all. And I think monastery to monastery, I think for 11,000 quid, it's a little bit leggy, but I have a feeling she's just beautiful.
Is it VAT qualifying? Get your VAT back.
I don't know.
I just changed the rules on that.
Yeah, I know, but something like that is second hand, though. Just new ones.
So there's only that, is there? No. So, and Japan. So I found this. I'm going to save my order 50 quid. In Japan, you would probably have seen these things whizzing by, and I think this is just the most perfect example. £14,950, a Toyota GT86 with those beautiful gold wheels in red. And I think in your habit, bombing around the gorse, I think that's it. 2-car garage, you've got £50 left in. Invest in a small pint or 2 of mead or ale for fellow monks.
Neil Clifford.
Yes. Okay. I won't go into this in much detail, but I do have a monk in the family. And I've spoken to the monk. He's currently travelling on very serious religious business issues in Spain.
Is there another kind of religious business?
No, there isn't. And I said,
How do you deliver this with a straight face? This is why you run a company.
No. I sent him on Instagram the 2-car garage. And I said, people won't believe me, but you are a member of my family and you are a monk. And he said, that's fantastic. So I suggested a few cars and we talked about it and we've come back with a solution. And in fact, he's looked on Car and Classics app. So we've come up with it. And he's my nephew actually. I was an accident of being a 4th boy, so I was an uncle when I was 3.
Wow,
which is quite strange in
that
itself.
sounds like another podcast.
It's another podcast. Anyway, so Kenneth, the monk, and he's happy for me to mention him. This is his recommendation with my help, obviously. So the obvious choice would be to go for a bloody Range Rover L322. And, there's a very broad range, as we know, Mr. Harris, of these cars, from 1995 on eBay to 29,995 if you want a facelift supercharged without black leather. But I'm not going for that.
Is no conversation private with you?
No. These are just discussions that we all have as friends the whole time. They're not real. They're all just, we're living in a parallel universe of car addiction. So I'm going BMW X5 Series 1 because I just love that car. I can't get an M1 because I've got to save money for the other car. But it's on Car and Classic and we will publish it. And it's the 3-litre and it's good condition and I think it was blue. And I love that car. When it came out, we're all like, fuck me, that's ugly. Weren't we?
I thought it looked good.
I didn't like it. I was against that 4x4 thing but actually now you look at it, you're like clever guys that did that, especially this first series. And then I think I've got, that was about 10 grand. So I've got 25 grand left. I need a few grand left for my monk travels because monks aren't, they're a bit potless, monks. So they need a bit of money for like MOTs and servicing and petrol and diesel. So I'm spending 12 and saving 3 left. This, I'm going pillarless. And I'm going reliable 90s, pillarless. And I'm going Lady Diana.
Oh, okay. Audi 80.
Yes.
Yes.
It's called the coupe, actually, I think.
Sorry, yes, it was the coupe. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just the move on from the 80. And there's one. I mean, it's very, very fast. I don't know if anyone's ever used this app, but you just type at the top, Audi coupe, search, and there they all are. Look.
Can you search on Monk Special Edition? I think you probably got a keyword for it, haven't you?
Yeah, and I found a very low mileage, 11,000 miles, blue, metallic blue, very 90s or very late 80s, lovely colour, convertible, pillarless, beautiful. And I've got 3 grand for my Monk savings.
That is, I have to say, I don't know how we beat that, really. There's no one in my family that's ever been a monk or probably ever will be a monk. And I can't, Neil Clifford once again, frankly, Chris Cooper's opening monologue flattened me and now Clifford's just thrown me a hospital pass as well. So I'm going to tell you what I did last night. I'm not making this up. So I want something Japanese. So this fits quite well. I want to own a Japanese car. In fact, I put something on Instagram which suggests what I might like. But actually, I love Series 1 Impreza turbos because I think that I just think the front light design is just, it's really beautifully integrated, and it reminds me of those front on shots of Colin Airborne or at stupid angles. And the facelift of that car never quite did it for me. It's got angles and shapes that are not quite right. It's like it's got its shoulders too far forward. But a Series 1 car is beautiful, and I found one last night. And like you do when you're an obsessive or an addict, as I do believe I am with this stuff, I look at it and I read the description and I pretend I'm not interested and I come back to it 3 minutes later.
Yes.
Come back to it. And then I go, no, I've done that. I'm not looking at that. And then I sort of doze off. I wake up. I might just see a photo of the interior. Is there a better photo of the interior? Is there a better? And I looked at this thing. It's here. It's a Series 1 WRX STI. It's red.
Oh, they're just great cars. Those little wheels.
Tiny little 15-inch wheels.
Yeah.
And it's had an engine rebuild, so it's probably got quite a bit. It's got probably more like 270 rather than the 250.
Rare in red, good colour.
I think the habit, that sort of brown habit, matched against the red, will look very fetching indeed. This car it's 23 grand, okay, and it's going to cost. I'm probably going to nick it for 22 on the nose, not much less than that. The owner, the other thing, I really appreciate a well-written advert. This is a well-written advert, this. I know there's 2 things that I will... If we talk about 100 yards testing a car, if I'm looking to buy a car, if it's written with some love and it's got a new set of Michelins on it, I've probably already bought it. Can
I just suggest one thing?
Yeah.
When you buy a car, the number 1 test, check the cigarette lighter.
Yeah.
If that's working, you've got a good, reliable owner that you're buying it from.
So I don't want a second car. I've been ordered to buy a second car, but the problem is that if I get a bit monkey in this thing, again, good pun, it's going to need some repairs because we can only fit 1 barrel in the back, so it's going to have to work through speed rather than luggage space. And this is taking a trip through the gauze at some point. So I need a little bit of a fighting fund for bodywork and probably, splitters, front fog lights, that sort of stuff. So I just absolutely love that car. And I tell you why I'm showing it now. I'm normally of the opinion that if I want something and I'm going to buy it, I never share the advert until I've bought it. I can't buy this car. It's not the right car for me, but someone needs to because it's absolutely brilliant and its spec looks amazing. So phone them up and bloody buy it. So before I do, stop me buying it, basically.
Yeah.
That's the podcast. Stop me buying it.
Stop me buying it. There you go. That's a T-shirt.
It's a T-shirt as well.
Definitely a T-shirt.
Stop me buying it. Okay, so let's move on to a little bit of music before we go.
Do you have a second car?
I haven't done it yet.
Oh shit! Sorry, Mr. Cooper. I'm not having a second car. I'm keeping my fighting funds to repair my first
Okay,
car.
all right, yeah.
Go on, Mr. Cooper. Sorry.
I think it's quite important because I think you've all done this wrong.
Oh shit! Here we go.
I'm going to dedicate this. No. I'm going to dedicate this to an old colleague of mine, Aidan. He passed away far too young. He's a colleague of mine a long time ago. And he was one of those characters. He ran away from the monastery to become an accountant.
Oh,
That's the best way to do it.
He was a Cistercian monk. The Cistercian monks sort of split off from the Benedictine monks a million years ago. They thought the Benedictine monks were a bit too, half-hearted and not very strict. So the Cistercian monks, they loved poverty, manual labor, solitude, prayer work, communal living, a generally monastic...
Did they get thrown off Top Gear as well?
No.
Okay, carry on.
They did. So they really lived a monastic life. So I think they would make some monastic choices, communal living, workmanlike, practical choices. Also capable of doing work and carrying things. So the first car that I would buy would be one of those.
Espace.
Renault Espace.
Oh, Series 1.
Series 1, the proper one.
Yeah.
€7,500 for sale.
It's not a Spas, by the way. It's a Spachi. You know that is.
It's available in the frequently defeated Kingdom of France.
Okay. Oh my God! Will you stop it?
I told you it was worth waiting for. And the Cistercian monks were known as the White Monks. So I think the car that Aidan would have used to get around other monks would have to be also practical, but hopefully white. So therefore, the other car that he would have would be that one.
Oh,
a Fiat Giardiniera.
Oh, what's that? An 850.
It's a Fiat Giardiniera. Giardiniera.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the Fiat 500 Estate station wagon. We'll talk about station wagons. So I think monastic, practical, workmanlike, self-sacrifice, and abstinence, and both of those choices, I think Aidan would have loved that. So that's for Aidan.
Who's going to keep these things running?
Well, there's just a whole monk house full of monks ready to do monkey business and monkey maintenance to my beautiful
with their monkey wrenches.
With monkey wrenches and
music.
Monk mechanics.
One of the great things, I had to go to Le Mans, come back and go back out again. And I flew out first time and I decided that I'd rather drive second time because actually driving is just better, isn't it? It's nicer. So I had lots of time to listen to music. And there's a pregnant woman standing outside my flat, and I have no idea why she's there. How interesting. I think one of the most remarkable voices of the 1980s pop scene was Terence Trent D'Arby. Right. Now, I didn't realise that that was a name given to him. So
was he from the East Midlands?
He reverted back to, I presume, his given name, which is Sananda Maitreya. So you can't find Terence Trent D'Arby on a streaming service because he's called Sananda Maitreya.
Right.
What I didn't know, I should have known this, is that in 1995 he released an album called Sananda Maitreya's Vibrator with himself with angel wings on the cover. It's quite a look. Now,
I wasn't sure I was
this
going to see
looks
that.
like it's just shock and awe, and he's trying to take the piss. It is vocally one of the most stunning things I've ever heard. I implore you to go listen to it. I could choose any song on there. It's recorded, I think, as live. But there's the last track, It's Been Said, number 13. I just kept rewinding back, thinking, is this the most extraordinary male voice I've ever heard? A proper epiphany. And I never even heard about the album. And I saw my lovely friend Marino Franchitti, who listened to this, and I went to him, this is an epiphany for me. He went, oh yeah, we've had that for ages. And I thought, oh my God, what is it with me? I'm just a klutz. I miss out on this stuff. So there you go. Manish, music.
Going with the monk-like theme, I think we're going to have Allegri's Miserere, possibly the most beautiful piece of music you'll ever hear in any kind of ecumenical building.
Nice.
Such a gorgeous piece, 17th century. Or
Well, I've
whatever.
got to write that down now. Hold on. Go on.
It was regarded as so beautiful it wasn't allowed to be played outside the Vatican. They said
Wow.
for about 100 years there were only 3 bits of music, they said, and it wasn't allowed to be copied on pain of death because it was so beautiful.
Wow.
Right. Now, okay, Cooper, beat that.
So, I'm usually occupying Philistine's corner in this spot of our podcast. That doesn't change this week. Brace yourselves. It's 1980s poodle rock, Starship. Nothing's going to stop us now. Because two reasons. Three reasons. It's a banging song.
Yeah.
2, it came on my little playlist when I was running around the gym for the first time in Never last night. And it just reminded me of how great I felt when Robert Kubica won Le Mans this week.
Good. And Neil Clifford.
A 30-second story. I discovered The Who via my brothers because I've got 3 older brothers. So I was too young to really know The Who in period when they were cool. But I discovered them through them, and I adore The Who. And I've only seen them when they're sort of old blokes, but still, The Who I adore. And one of my favourite films is Quadrophenia, because I adore the story, I adore the music. I'm from Portsmouth, which is sort of poor versions Brighton. That whole sort of scooter thing, biker thing, Isle of Wight, all of that. And then I discover that there is Roger, what's his name?
Daltrey.
No, not Daltrey, the other guy, Pete Townsend. Pete Townsend has done a ballet.
Yes.
Yeah, he's done a ballet. So I think, oh my God, he's done a ballet, and it's a theatre half a mile from here. In I should know the name of it because it's very famous and posh, but it's in Clerkenwell. And the other bit to this is COVID was a real bastard, wasn't it? I've spoken about this many times. Trying to rebuild your friendships with your mates,
Everything.
and you think that as you get older and your kids grow up, it's going to be easier to get together with your friends and talk and be nice to each other and look after each other and maybe have dinner. It's actually worse, and I don't know why. And it's all very difficult for us all. So I said to all of my mates, we've got a little WhatsApp group as we've all got. I am fucking buying tickets to this Quadrophenia ballet and I'm paying for it. So please tell me who's coming. And I managed to get 8 out of the 10 to make it. And I said, it's free unless you don't show up. And if you fucking show up, I'm buying your ticket. If you don't show up, you owe me 85 quid. And we're going on July the 8th, 7:30. We're going to have a bit of supper around the corner in Farringdon. And I hope it's great. I hope it's not shit. And my song is The Punk and the Godfather off Quadrophenia. And I used to drive that in my Renault 5 Turbo. And I literally am so emotional about it. If I have to commit suicide, it will be to Quadrophenia.
Oh,
You know what? After I listened to Terence Fent, or whatever he's called now, I listened to Quadrophenia again. That when the Keith Moon drums and the bass come in on Can You Feel the Real Me, that is
The real me. The drum.
God.
Yeah, but listen to the drums of The Punk of the Godfather. It's as good because it's not in time. It's just totally random brilliant.
What they felt like at the time.
So, thank you very much for joining us for episode 42 of the Car Podcast. For those of you that are joining us today at Thruxton and for the live event this evening, I worked out what day this is coming out. Can't wait to see you. The weather's going to be fantastic. And I think we're having our own slightly more secret car meet. See you there.